Welcome to Brash Ag, the farm innovation podcast with hosts Raymond King and Kit Franklin.
Namaste, Raymond.
Namaste. We're still in a very different location. Normally I'm sat in my office and you're sat in your office, and where you're normally admiring the view out of your window, and today we're admiring the view of some beds with some small baby hawthorn trees in it. So where are we today?
Well, it's very exciting. We're at J&A Growers, who are purveyors of finest quality tree stock. And the reason we're here, what brings us here, is to talk to James Miller, CEO of Earth Rover. James, how are you doing?
I'll say namaste as well.
Yeah,
namaste. How are you doing?
Namaste. Yeah, we're very good. We're very good. Thanks for having us. James, you and I know each other from a former life out in India.
Indeed.
Which was fun and a time I fondly look back upon. But here we are in Warwickshire, and looking over a robot that's approaching us from the other end of the field. Tell us a little bit about Earth Rover, and then we will come back to your sort of backstory, and then we'll delve into the depths of Earth Rover in a minute. But give us the top line elevator pitch of Earth Rover.
Well, Earth Rover's an agri-robotics company. We've developed a product called Claws, concentrated light autonomous weeding and scouting. Much easier to say claws, but fundamentally field robot that does weeding and crop monitoring as it goes through the field.
Great. So now there's sort of a parallel journeys to unpick here maybe, but Earth Rover, as I know of it, has existed probably over 10 years. I think it was maybe 2015, 14, 15-ish.
Established 2017 actually.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. I added a few more there.
But with a linked history, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I know that some of the founders maybe had conversations with my old boss Simon Blackmore, who gets lots of shout outs on our podcast. And you yourself at the time were working for a certain Indian manufacturer of fine agricultural machinery. So what describe your journey? I guess actually, I mean, your background I know is Warwick Manufacturing Group, consultancy engineering. Describe your journey into agriculture and then eventually to Earth Rover, and maybe weave into that, maybe Earth Rover's history as well.
Oh, yeah.
If that's an easy ask, I realise.
I was going to say that's a full pot in here.
Yeah. But,
well, wind the clock back, engineer by training, so I can't avoid that one, I'm afraid, but definitely developed a capability in product development and project management to take new technologies firstly out into demonstration capability through that design, development, manufacture and test, and then latterly out into a much wider new product development process and new technology development process. So across the past 20 odd years, kind of honed those skills and played around with some really interesting technology in my time.
And where did you first get into agriculture? Because Ray and I can give our classic ag eng stories that we grew up on farms, but I don't think that's necessarily the case for you. Or is it? Have I got that wrong?
No, well, started in engineering consultancy business, so we were doing a lot of automotive and off-highway technology development for companies, and then we had a business development inquiry that came in through WMG, Warwick Manufacturing Group, and basically asked for anybody who could help with tractor and agricultural equipment development. So yes, got involved with Indian tractor manufacturer to help refine their product development process and start to support some new technologies into those tractors that were being developed. Long story short, a journey that started in 2006 culminated in 2017 with me upping sticks, moving over to India as Group CTO.
And living on the beach, in fact.
Not a million miles away from it, no. Quite a nice view over the Bay of Bengal,
yeah, it was quite a nice house, I'd say, quite a nice view. So your time in India, I remember we had some really in-depth conversations about robotics at that time and the future of ag tech. And I remember you talking to me as I guess looking for insight from me, I would often rapidly find myself thinking you knew far more about it than I did, and you'd done a lot more. You were horizon scanning a lot more than I was a lot of the time. So what I'm getting at there is it felt to me that you really got a bug for this ag tech and ag robotics world, and the sort of, you got the bug for ag.
Yeah, well, we ran a technology conference and invited experts from across the world, various large commercial enterprises, from universities, and obviously we invited yourself over to start talking about the potential for autonomy, in particular hands-free hectare. So following on from that, we then established the Hands-Free Hectare India program and started looking at the technology roadmaps of where technology would go beyond the life of a 40, 50 horsepower mechanical driven diesel tractor into future technologies that would then be globally acceptable. The lens that we were looking through, though, was very much a cost base from India, and not so much looking at what is in traditional Western world, huge machines, huge costs, and really long payback periods for India in that respect. But how do you make it cost effective for your sort of 1 to 2 hectare marginal and subsistent farmer?
Which I think is a conundrum that I still puzzle with today, because ultimately still in India, despite a rapidly urbanising population, there is still a lot of people in that environment, and the farm sizes are very small. So it is a really tricky conundrum about how do you get that technology to really pay off in India.
And that's really where the passion came from. It's a really difficult problem to solve. And engineers like problem solving, so give a real challenging one and off you go. But it's just dawned on me, it was Technova is what it was called. We called it Technova.
Yeah, there we go. So so from Technova to Warwick, what brought you into Earth Rover, and what was the attraction of leaving the Bay of Bengal?
Well, I mean, long short, when the assignment came to end, it was a full 5-year assignment to grow the team and build their centres of excellence and build the technology roadmaps and get some certain technologies into play. That brought me, as you said, into contact with an awful lot of the global autonomous technologies, the alternative fuel technologies, and looking at it from things that could be applied, particularly with a low-cost market in mind. I finished that assignment post-COVID, came back to the UK for family reasons, and bumped into our chairman, James Brown, at a VDI conference over in Dusseldorf. He was presenting on the whole Earth Rover pitch and what Claus was capable of. We got chatting over lunch, and I challenged him on this whole use of light and thermal to combat weeds, and he was very quick to point out that we're not quite the same as just firing lasers blindly at the ground and scorching the earth through concentrated light. Of course, it's a focus point, a bit like a schoolboy with a magnifying glass, and therefore you don't scorch the earth. So all of the inherent safety risks start to diminish. The fact it was small, lightweight, meant, and it not interfering with the soil, meant that you don't need massive amounts of energy on board. So the battery and solar part started to make a lot of sense. And also the fact you can have extended hours of operation when you've got wet fields is also a key bonus. So the rest of it all just tweaked in my mind. You've got a cheaper based platform which could be globally acceptable in volume.
So you came to Earth Rover at a point, but I suppose it would just be interesting. I mean, from the outside looking in at Earth Rover, there's been quite a few guises that Earth Rover have gone through. Obviously, Claus is one, but there's been other pieces of technologies kind of come and go under the umbrella of Earth Rover. So what was the ethos behind Earth Rover being started, and then sort of, I suppose, how does that translate into a bit of a timeline in terms of? I think it's interesting. There's lots of chatter you have with people in the ag technology world, certainly in the UK. Oh, that's an Earth Rover project, and that's Earth Rover. It'd be interesting to kind of put that in a line a little bit, put that in a row, and understand it just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, the origins go back to when the concept was born out of a scouting robot, supported by the European Space Agency, licensing the technology for autonomous navigation on field. That was the ExoMars rover project licensing that fed into the very first robot that went out and looked at broccoli through a scouting camera. The scouting data that started to generate was great, and the team then developed that into a tractor-mounted system. That went onto a 3-bed arrangement. The data was good up to a point. That point was the frame rate per second versus the tractor driver who couldn't keep a constant speed really drove the need for more autonomy and more robotic operation, because you can control the speed better than you can a human being. So the team then developed the first of the straddle robots, which were then on field for scouting. That data then produced couple of key elements, one of those being the fact that weed control was one of the biggest losses on the field. The other one was harvesting. That brought 2 streams basically within Earth Rover. One was focused around claws, and that generated the whole light weeder concept, so we could use concentrated light to zap weeds, and then also a harvester project which was looking at selective broccoli harvesting, which was spun out into another company that I'm sure you've spoken to on VTP.
No, we haven't.
We haven't.
It's worth the chat.
But it's good to understand that, because I think that's why I'd seen sort of things with harvesting, I'd seen things with claws, and probably in my time at a small robot company kind of looking at the robotic sector, seen sort of earlier versions of, I suppose, what became claws, but probably more the scouting piece.
Yep.
So it's interesting I think that's good to understand that and kind of how it's all come about and come together.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, when I joined the company, we just finished that separation to allow the core technology to be focused in the 2 separate areas. So harvester was separated out, and the rest of the team were focused on claws as a autonomous weeding platform.
You said some interesting things and some very, again, say his name for a second time in this conversation, some very Simon Blackmore things.
Simon Blackmore, yeah.
That by having a light machine, it doesn't need a huge amount of energy to take itself up the field, opens up the door for different form factors. It opens the door for solar panel. It opens the door for lithium battery power, and it also widens the operation window because the big heavy tractor doesn't sink into the soil. So this really is, it's not the only, but it is a really great coming together of those ideas into a now a commercial product.
Yep, we're just into pre-production pilot now, where we've just been deploying 10 units this year, following on from the 8 betas last year. But yeah, you're right, the core of the technology of the light weeders was intended to be modular. The platform that you see it slung under could be anything. It could be any of the robots. In fact, Ray, that's when we first met, because we were talking about small robot, maybe taking light weeder modules as part of that robot offering as well, which would have been a great combination of the Simon Blackmore dream. But unfortunately never happened. We ran out of time on that one. But yeah, the idea is that the light weeder modules are there as an independent piece of kit. You provide them with power, you can provide them with a data cable to say, yeah, I've finished my job, you can start your job, and then you can put it on any platform you like.
I think that's it's nice. It is nice to have something that can be platform agnostic, because I think sometimes people can get kind of caught up on form factors and how you deliver things to the field, and what makes sense for one farmer might not make sense for another. I think that's where we talked about it a few times, and Carbon Robotics kind of did that. They started out, we have to be a robot and we have to have a laser weeder on our robot, and it was hugely expensive, and then they kind of went towards maybe let's just put this on the back of the tractor. There's probably still challenges for them, but I think it's always interesting to have that modularity approach of saying, right, it's a tool, it can do a job, we can deliver it wherever and however. So I like the concept of that. Like, yeah, you can deliver then for multiple customers in scenarios like as you're doing here. I mean, this isn't broccoli anymore, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. But that is where it started. It was, I'm not going to say a relatively easy concept, but it's transplant crop broccoli or whole head lettuce. So big plant, that's the one you're protecting. Small plant is the weed, you're zapping that. Why we're here today is because these are effectively seeded rows, which we hadn't got an algorithm for, and the weed competes with the crop at the point of emergence. So we needed to be able to identify the two at the same time, early doors, and get that weeding done. So we kicked that project off with Jamie under the TPIF programs in 2024 to start developing row protection on about 3 different tree species. I ended up by the end of the season developing it for 5. And that's led to really today, while we're here with Beta 1 as the unit over here, and intra-row weeding.
So there's lots to cover. We want to talk for another 10 or 15 minutes, James, before we go and have a look at it up close, and we're also going to have a chat with Jamie as the farmer who's using it here. We'd love to cover a little bit about the business model, a little bit about the sort of how many are out there and who and what sort of crops and things like that. But as a starting point, I feel like we should maybe try and lift a little bit on the technology. And I realise you're going to be slightly that's probably your IP in there, but you keep saying concentrated light, and obviously the name of the robot is concentrated light. Why is it concentrated light and not laser? What is the difference, and can you summarise that for us and describe that?
Well, there's not much to be cagey about anymore, because the patents have been granted in both US and Europe. But fundamentally, we take multiple light sources through a concentrator lens and point them down, much like you've done it all done it before with the sunlight on a magnifying glass. Find that real focal point where you can get the maximum amount of energy. And as a schoolboy, you probably did it with a piece of paper, and use that to zap the weed. The fundamental difference being the laser beam has the same energy all the way down that collimated beam, which means if it bounces off something and reflects off that, it'll continue for miles to come. With what we're doing here, of course, it diverges after that focal point. So if it does hit something on the ground, it's continually diverging, and within 10 metres, it's
dissipated. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, Jonathan Gill, who my old colleague and now employee of yours and works with the Earth Rover developments, him and I did laser weeding in 2014, and I think our laser beam was a parallel beam to something like 2.5 kilometers from memory before it would diverge. So we were always very wary of its potential danger. And that led us to needing shrouding around that laser when we put it in the field. That machine did go into field, but it was heavily shrouded with draping sheets and aluminium boxes and the rest of it. So it's interesting. So we've got a wide light source focused down, and then clearly once it goes beyond that focal point, it's diverging again.
So I noted when we've seen the machine from a distance here, you can see it does have a laser warning sticker. Is that because there isn't a warning sticker for concentrated light yet? And Mark, I suppose, humour aside on that one, is there a regulatory piece around the concentrated light that kind of needs, do you need regulations to kind of step up to kind of help you support that, or do you feel like from the safety case perspective you're kind of, you've done what you need to do?
Yeah, I mean, the source of the light, fundamentally is still solid state diodes. Mm-hmm. So that's still, because of the energy levels of those, it still has a classification on the laser scales, shall we say. But the testing of it and the way we've configured it means that we have that eye safety region after a period of time. Interesting you should ask about the regulation and legislation part of it. Most people are used to testing, industrial lasers for whether it's laser etching, laser cutting, or medical lasers. They're not so used to testing them for zapping weeds. Mm-hmm. Working with certain companies trying to understand how they should actually report on this is still early days, but you work through effectively the functional safety element of it, and you end up with the tests and the results that you're looking for to be able to give it the sticker.
Cool. So just to finish off the tech, we're using, so we've got our concentrated light rather than laser. We've got cameras, but we're using this. It's more than classical green on brown. We're using trained machine vision sort of algorithms, and I guess those algorithms, they're developing all the time and improving all the time as you're running these machines.
Yep. So we have a base weed algorithm, which obviously we use to identify everything on the ground, and then we'll overlay a crop model on that, or we can overlay a base size filter if we have transplant crop, for example. But yes, specific crops ranging from these 12 varieties of tree seedlings and where we are today, through to baby leaf lettuce, red or green, broccoli, as we said, whole head lettuce, gem lettuce. All of those models exist. and we're working now, we have been for a couple of seasons, in carrots and onions, and the full range of onions on that as well. Long list on there's a follow-on where customers are asking, do one for this, do one for that, do one for the other.
I was going to say, I'm sure you get people calling and saying, I grow this, can you help? And you're, there's obviously a human resource in that training that needs allocating.
Well, can you help? The answer is always yes. Most models are adaptable to another crop type. Best example I can give, we got a request for weeding in peonies. So obviously the flowers over in Holland, and applied the red lettuce model. We looked at the type of emergence that the crop had. These red stalks and red stems come up. Looked very similar to what we were doing in red baby leaf lettuce. Took the pictures, trialled the algorithm, tested it. We were out on field within a week, testing and firing at weeds in that field with a good level of crop protection. It's a resource, yes, but not a massive resource required for it.
I think that's quite a good approach, isn't it? I think you speak to a lot of people when they're doing spot spraying or spot treatments, and they always turn around and say, "Oh, we've got an algorithm for this, but if you want one for your crop, you'll have to pay the development costs." And it's always a bit of chicken and egg then, because you sort of say, "Well, yeah, but then I only want it to work on my farm. Why should I pay the development costs?" So I think you can't. I think it's evolving to the point where you can't turn around and say, "Oh, well, you need to foot the bill." It needs to be a case of, we'll foot the bill, use you as a development case, and then but we'll then leverage that across other farms and customers. So I think I think you have to take that approach.
So let's dive away from the technology a little bit and more onto the service model, the business model. Is the Earth Rover now? Because already in this conversation you've talked about the fact it's modular and you can hang it off whatever you want. Obviously you have your own robot platform. If I'm an interested farmer and I want to take this technology on next year, am I coming to you with a service agreement to sign a service agreement? Am I coming to you with cash to buy one? What is the model you're looking for?
Well, it's very easy. It's cash always. Joking aside, they're sold as a unit. We can do an as a service model. We can do a rental model. We thought 4 years ago when we looked at this that everything was going to be as a service and rental. I think everyone did. But then it's flipped on its head totally, because most growers want the technology or the equipment on their farm when they need it. Purchase of it is really the core part of it.
And the problem is when they need it, it's the same time as when everyone else needs it. So the service model doesn't actually work for you as the service provider, because you can only put it onto one farm anyway.
Correct. And farmers know that anyway. They'll know that they'll be second, third, fourth on the list when there's other people screaming for it at the same time, and they don't want to run that risk. They can't.
Yeah.
We normally reserve this question for shows, when we put people under the grill a little bit when we go to their show stands, but we ask them, how much is it going to cost? Do you have, I know you're only sort of in the sort of early production stages, but how much is it going to cost? Can you give us an indication of that?
Well, pilot pioneers have got a favourable deal. We do offer a discount, and not least because of what you said earlier about, there are algorithms that need developing for new crops, and we work with those growers to do that. We've signed them up the beta's signed up for 5-year partnership, basically, where we'll continue to develop their algorithms for their crops and work closely with them. We don't charge them for that development. We've just paid for it, cover the cost of the unit, and that was done as a beta. The pilot pioneers get a discount for 2 years, but fundamentally when it's in full production, it's about $150,000 machine.
Mm-hmm. And the coverage, this is something for each, again, chicken and egg. I probably could have asked this in the technical bit. And I realise this is an open question, because do you have 500 weeds per metre? Do you have 10 weeds per metre? But what is the range or the ballpark in sort of what this machine could cover? Is it gonna cope with a 10 hectare field, a 20 hectare field? Like what is that 150,000 spread across to me as a farmer?
Well, that all depends on your crop and your weed, as you say, but it's a hectare to a hectare and a half a day is what we're currently quoting and achieving.
Okay.
It just depends on the length of your day, of course. Ultimately, we want to be about 1.5 hectares per 8 hours, would be nice, because that's really cost optimal for most growers. But at the same time, high value crops, small areas, it's already cost effective at that scale.
And I guess the model is, if we can get through our crops 3-4 times per season on any given piece of land, that keeps the weeds, it keeps knocking the weeds over when they're really nice and small and they haven't done any detriment to the crop. So I guess, what say here at J&A, how often are they running it through? Is it once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks? How often are they running it in actuality?
Fundamentally, we were looking at once a week here.
Okay.
J&A growers like to keep nice clean bed. Very much of the philosophy of sort of 1 year's seed is 7 years weed. Try and keep that at bay. Get the all of that seed bank destroyed and kept at bay out of your crop. So yes, once a week has been the philosophy here, and even to the point of how much energy can we wind up and put in there just to make sure that weeds definitely pass.
Right. So we are then, without stating the obvious, we are talking high value crops to make this work at the sort of 150. I'm not going to be putting this in my wheat field anytime soon.
Funny you should say that. We're just about to start a project under Innovate UK called Broad Claws.
Okay.
So we're working on what is required to make it fast and more productive to cover a 30 to 50 hectare sugar beet field, for example, or possibly weeding winter wheat over winter, when the ground's usually sticky and soggy for heavy equipment to go in, but small lightweight kit can get in there and zap those weeds before they start their real spring growth. So we're just about to start that project. It's going to be a 24-month project. So anytime soon, what are you going to say? 24 months? It'll be on the field by then.
Fair enough. Well, James, I'm just conscious of time, and I know we want to get out to see the machine in the field and up close, and also we want to have a chat with Jamie. So thanks for that opener, and let's go and have a look at the machine.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so we've just been given some safety goggles. So you can tell us about the safety goggle requirement down here. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, as you approach claws, it's that 1 in a million chance that there's a really reflective piece of shiny metal and mirror on the ground.
Bit of flint.
That looks like weed, is identified like a weed by the AI, and then that fires and you're within 10 metre range of it, and that can get you right in the eye. It's that sort of 1 to 1 chance.
Okay,
so we're just being traditional health and safety.
So we can walk up, but once we get to 10 metres, make sure we
put your glasses on. Yeah,
already. We should say we're walking through some Hawthorn, which we've been hearing all about. How many thousand Hawthorn in one of these beds, Jamie?
In one of these beds, there's probably 35,000 plants sown in about the 10th of April, and hopefully by the time we get to harvest in end of October, these will be up to 65 centimetres.
6 inches tall, something like that at the minute.
15-20 centimetres?
Yeah. Between 15 and 30 at the moment. They're just in the main growing. Everything takes a while to get going, and as long as the weather plays ball and everything else plays ball, and we can keep on top of the potential powdery mildew infection in the crop, then we'll be, growth should be there.
And in terms of your weeds that we're targeting here, what sort of weed problems have we got? Is it all the sort of same weeds that an arable farmer in this country would consider?
Exactly the same weed spectrum that you'd see in an arable crop on this type of soil. So Cranesville, got a lot of clover in it. Cranesville in this field is quite prevalent. It's, we only bought this bit of land here about 8 years ago. It'd been continually under sort of broadacre crops for a long time, and so it's taken us a long time to get on top of the weed burden.
And obviously the conventional sort of ag chems and things like that are not necessarily designed with growing trees in mind.
Correct.
What?
Plus also, everything that since we lost the long-term arrangements, we're now looking at everything through emus. So, and we're looking at, and of course we're we're being forced to dechemical. We've got the SPS agreement coming in, loss of 15 actives. You know, so we're now at the point we have to look at alternative forms of weed control. And if you look over to your right, you'll see the old method going on. Okay, just people hand weeding. We could inter-row weed here with inter-row spray, but it isn't in-row spray. So we're now at the ability with claws being able to in-row target weeds.
What's the big challenge that the weeds cause for you? Is it a yield issue? Is it a harvesting problem?
Suppressing growth.
Just suppressing growth.
If it gets out of hand, then it will harvesting issue.
Yeah.
But it's suppressing growth. Every weed is competing for nutrients.
Well, lots of interesting robot noises going on.
So rather,
As long as they're only noises like that.
what's squeaking, Harry?
Needs a bit of WD-40.
It does.
Probably worth saying we're watching the robot moving along, probably roughly a foot at each time, something like that.
50
50
centimetres.
centimetres.
50 centimetres at a time. It stops, there's a flash, and then it moves on. I assume the flash is it taking an image.
Yep, so the process is it'll move 50 centimetres, flash, take a picture of the ground underneath it, then decide within a split second what's a weed, what's crop, and then if it identifies any weeds, it targets them, and then the next sound you hear is the actuators aiming at those weeds.
So the flash we're seeing is purely the camera flash. That's not the flash of the dose.
Correct?
The dose is not visible.
No, the dose is the blue light that you'll see after that. There's so few weeds in this field, you only see it every once in a while.
If you come behind it, you'll see the flash.
Is that sort of slight crackle noise? Yeah, is it burning the weeds?
That's a boiling weed.
It's also the fact we're wearing our safety goggles means I can't see it.
Not as blue, we should be able to see it as white.
So in terms of the structure of the robot, we've got sort of, I'm going to be very rude and say it's the very classical ag robot sort of bed frame, like long legs, wheel on each corner, solar panels on the top, lithium-ion batteries. What's our operation window in a British spring or summer day?
In terms of the time of year it can operate, or
In terms
daily
we're
operation?
running on solar power. What's our operation time?
So on the batteries alone, we say it should be 4 hours operation. With solar, that gives it an extra 4 hours, so you should have a full 8 hours on each battery set with the solar on board. But we've seen anything on these fields about 12 to 15 hours, I think, there's a peak operation on a single set of batteries. And we have just had a record set of 21 hours on a single set of batteries.
We were 50% positive, net positive in terms of solar generation last season, which was good to see.
Yeah, last year we were net generating power on it, even though it was weeding. And that was where my belief is it could be a fully autonomous 24-hour a day operation. You know, we're not controlling weeds through the winter months. We're controlling weeds when we have a darkness is 5 to 6 hours. And we were running last year, James has just said, 8 hours on one set of batteries. If you can go into darkness with a full set of batteries by 5 o'clock in the morning, sun's coming up, as long as you've still got 20%, which is the point it goes, I've had enough, you'll be coming out and you're back to net generation. But all of it is down to weed density. The higher the weed density, the more power required. And what was our weed density here last year? You told it exactly, was it?
In the range of 3 to 5 weeds a square metre.
Yeah, it's very, very little here, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not up at the sort of 1,000 weeds a square metre, which I know they've experienced on some farms.
1,000 to 2,000
2,000
square metres, yeah, almost grass, turf.
Yeah, exactly.
So that weed density, James, that will obviously affect throughput of the machine. It will go slower if there's more weeds. It obviously can cover more ground if there's less weeds.
Correct, yeah, because it just assesses the ground at each stage. If it doesn't identify anything, moves on almost immediately. Otherwise, if there's a lot of weeds there, it will stay there until the job's done.
So, in terms of the tech on the machine, is there how many sort of weeding lights are there?
So it's 3 modules, and each module contains 4 units, so that's 12 lights in total.
Each unit can fire at 5 weeds a second.
Yes.
So potentially, if you had very even weed density, you could target 60 weeds in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. I imagine it's one of those things. It's sort of a diminishing curve of how many weeds you get as you come back with more frequent passes. Yeah. I like just on a kind of comment around the layout of the robot. I think I'm assuming the two sort of the black handles there are the batteries, easy to access, easy to remove, pull those out.
Swap packs.
Yeah, and I like the motors that you've got on the front, the PWM or PMW.
BMW.
Yeah, that's a UK manufacturer, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. UK company.
We spoke to them.
And motors swatting there, right?
We spoke to them at Small Robot Company, so it's good to see that they've got something out there, and a nicely laid out machine. There's lots of easy access to the bits you need easy access to, like the batteries. So, yeah, very good.
It's also relatively light.
Yes.
So it can handle conditions that aren't sometimes as conducive to operating in the field.
Yeah.
That can operate when you couldn't put a tractor on the field.
Yeah. Well, and we saw as well when we got here. It's on it was the whole transportation logistics is based on a sort of a small motorbike trailer, isn't it? On the back of a sort of SUV. So nice to be able to just quickly turn up in a field, deploy it, let it do its thing.
Yeah, we're actually at the point where we can actually send it to a field, and we're luckily within a ring fence. So we could, apart from the fact we've got a bridleway for about 200 metres, which there is an issue between an autonomous machine and a bridleway. Mm-hmm. So apart from that, we could set it off from the farm, Yeah. My dream is that I would be able to sit on my phone at 6 o'clock in the morning in my bed and go there.
Yes.
And then start in that crop.
You want to be really careful because you'll turn into me and my robot lawnmower. Yeah, you do.
I've got them too.
I suppose it's probably a question actually for you, James. How far are you away from that from a product perspective? Do you think in terms of let it go? Obviously, there's I assume at the moment operation requires someone to be in the field with it, but are you at a point where you could just say, right, that's it, let's put it out in the field, it's doing its own thing, and we'll leave it to it?
I mean, it's supervised autonomy at this point.
Yeah.
So it has all the usual restrictions of operation, i.e. you've got a geofence, you're plotting AB lines, it follows a headland turn out at the end of those AB lines and can't go any further than the geofence electronically.
Yeah.
Being lightweight and relatively low power, in fact you can just see it doing a headland turn there now. It won't get through deer fencing, it won't get through a ditch, so it's relatively self-contained like that. If the worst came to the worst and the electronics failed.
Yeah.
But the overall operation, particularly driving across the farm, we're increasing its perception now under an Innovate UK funded project under the Adopt scheme. So it will be able to navigate between fields quite comfortably.
That was a question I was going to ask as I see it very slowly trundling its way towards us, is if we stayed here, would it just bump into us, or would it come to a halt?
No, it has object detection, so it will just stop. It'll beep at you and say you're in the way, and that's it.
Okay.
And then, as I said, that project will then take us to the next level, which will increase its perception for obviously a wider amount of obstacle avoidance, we'll call it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, in fields like this, there's no real need for obstacle avoidance. It's just got to stop, otherwise it'll drive across the crop if it avoids. But when you're on the tracks, obviously there could be a parked tractor, a parked trailer in its way. So as Jamie says, when he wants it to go between fields or from the tractor shed to the fields, that's when it will need to avoid.
So Harry, you're out here minding the robot. What does your day look like as a robot minder? And do you think, from your position, could you handle 10 of these machines under one operator?
I think 10 might be a struggle, possibly 5 at the moment, but yeah, I mean, in terms of operations during the day, if you were just running it, it wouldn't take much of your time to set it off in the morning and then keep an eye on them during the day. I work as a field test engineer for Earth Rover, so I'm helping the development of the new AI models and future development in terms of making it reliable on-field solution. So there's more to what I do in the day than just watching it, but it's at the stage now where you could just set it off going and you're pretty confident that there's not going to be any issues. So it's just about keeping in mind those safety aspects of making sure there's no issues on that, really.
In terms of that development work you're doing, is that obviously within the grounds of what you're allowed to tell us, is that development thick and fast? Yeah, I mean, are you implementing new technology and new code and new software regularly, or is it more of a steady review process?
Well, I've only been here a year at Earth Rover, and since then it's drastically improved from what it was even then. So we try and move as fast as possible, really. As fast as you can move without causing more issues, but it's progressing all the time, really.
Well, thanks for that insight, Harry. We're just going to try and head off the field now, get behind a truck to try and block the wind, and speak to Jamie, the farmer, on how it's been to use the machine. So we're joined by Jamie, who is owner of JNA.
Yep, well, shareholder, 50% shareholder, along with she who must be obeyed.
And just sum up what your business is for the listener in a...
Right, we grow approximately 13 million trees, or hedging and tree species for commercial forestry and hedging. So all those horrible plastic guards you see down the side of the road, we grow the thing that's inside them.
But an essential part of our move of the, a regreening of our country, is that not?
Well, it's all about, we're looking at net zero by 2050 or 2040. I can't remember which one it is, but anyway, we're net zero by 2050. One of the factors is do that is planting more trees. So government has committed to net zero, and one of their aspects is increasing woodland cover and hedgerow cover. They have a target of 30,000 miles of hedgerow by 2037. We're talking about, and because forestry is devolved, we're looking at 4 different administrations on that side. The Scottish Government, have had targets which we've never hit yet. They're aspirations in my view, but we're seeing an increase in demand. And on top of that, we've got, you wind back the clock 20 years ago, we were importing 80% of all hardwoods being planted in the UK. 2012 came along, ash dieback reared its ugly head. We saw a big shift, both from within government, but also from the private sector, to plant UK grown material. So now the demand is predominantly UK grown, and it's probably continue going to move that way. Ever since we've left the EU, we're now allowed at the moment, we're allowed to have decide our own plant health policy. Okay, as we align with the EU, we'll in theory go back to aligning with the European plant health regime, and that's a different ballpark, and I won't probably not go get into that now. So that's what we do here. We're highly intensive, and we're looking at trying to drag production horticulture into the 21st and 22nd century. So, we're having to de-chemical. That's the way it is now. So we're looking at, we've just been looking at claws. We're looking at a different form of weed control rather than using chemistry. So we joined up with Earth Rover 3 years ago. 3 to 4 years ago, when we first, they were pre-commercial at that point, and I'd read something about them in a magazine. In the end, I think I picked up the phone or emailed or whatever. Miraculously, the CEO lived 6 miles from us. Came out here, talked about what could, and suddenly realised actually, you take our crops, the value crop by area is 10 times what baby leaf is. That in fact, even though we're small scale in the scheme of farming, we're highly intensive. That in fact, this technology can work in our environment. So and when they were looking for beta versions, we put our hands up very quickly. We'd identified that if we could hit a weed with concentrated light at the meristem accurately, it would kill the weed. And we've now, I think we've actually got the AI to be able to operate in all our crops now, haven't we, Harry? Yep.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
And we're now, initially we worked between the rows. The AI has been developed that we can now target weeds within the row. Obviously, once crops get full crop canopy, if it can't see the weeds, it can't fire at it. So there is that window from mid-May through till we've got some crops you'll still be able to operate in late in the autumn because they don't grow very quickly. But the Hawthorn crop was stood over here. Within 2 to 3 weeks, there'll be full crop canopy, won't be operating in here.
Okay. So within your business, what is this replacing, Jamie, or what is it complementing? Is it complementing both manual weeding and chemicals? Is it complementing a mechanical weeding system behind a tractor? What other tools are in your arsenal, and which is this technology maybe going to displace and improve upon?
This will be part of our toolkit on weed control. This will never do 100% weed control. Okay, we realise that, but it will be part of our toolkit. You look behind us here, and we've got 3 manual weeders operating. We would like to think within maybe next year, possibly the year after, that actually they will no longer be required here. As clause increases capacity, as we increase our capacity to work with it, that we'll look to replace manual weeding. We do quite a lot of inter-row spraying here, but of course that's only inter-row. There's still the weeds in the row. So I see it as being the major tool in our armoury. So instead of having 3 manual weeders, you might have just one chap wandering along behind it who will probably be operating it at the same time. It's all done through a mobile app on your phone. And so he may well be just, instead of, at the moment, we've got Harry, who's field test engineer here. In fact, the first year with James, I gave them 9 beds of one crop, and I said, well, if you don't kill the weeds, you've got to hand weed it. And they did.
That was a promise. That was a promise. Whatever it missed, we'd pick up by hand.
And your son came out to do it. But I think it is a technology of the future. People aren't prepared to do dirty, and it's not dirty work. It's a lovely sunny day here at the moment. Well, big cloud cover, but it's not hard work. But that sort of repetitive nature, people are not prepared to do. And we're looking at other aspects, using robots to grade our plants. It won't happen in probably my career. I'm 63, but I do think it will happen within 10 or 15 years' time. We'll start looking at, are we talking autonomous tractors? Possibly. Probably not on our scale, but in the scheme of things, we've seen Jeremy Clarkson on Clarkson Farm with his autonomous tractor, seed working there. But that's got a long way to go till it replaces a human being.
Yeah. Wait for Biggles to fly over. In terms of, I suppose, could you kind of put some numbers to the kind of the cost of the challenge at the moment? Like without the clause, what does weed control kind of cost to you as a business?
Well, it's not so much the weed control. Every herbicide you apply suppresses your crop. It doesn't kill it, it suppresses it. So if we can increase growth of our crop by not using conventional herbicides, it's a win-win for us.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
It must. I suppose the problem is the other option is you put people in the field and they go and do it. But I imagine that comes at a reasonably significant cost, and it's difficult to get hold of people to do it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest win for us is moving away from herbicides. You know, we will use pre-emergence herbicides on this crop, and we know it suppresses the crop. Doesn't kill the crop, just suppresses it. So if we don't do the pre-emergence herbicides, and we can use this sort of form of technology, once we've got the confidence it can deliver, and I see it as ultimately, if you wind the clock forward here, within a number of years, you might find 2 or 3 of these operating. We can't operate. That does not have the capacity. One machine does not have the capacity to work here, but I see it working as swarm robotics.
Yeah.
And then you can have one person managing a number of different units in your field, and it makes the job more attractive. It makes agriculture more attractive to the younger generation if we can bring in technology.
Yeah. No, I think.
Couldn't say it better ourselves, could we, Ray?
Yeah. Our job here is done. I mean, I suppose it'd be interesting to just understand your position in. You were sort of telling us about who your customers were. Is there? I assuming you're sort of by using this technology, you're kind of handing some value down the chain to them as well in terms of either more mature plants, less suppressed, or how do you sit within the sort of ecosystem of selling your product?
That's a really good question. You'd have to ask my customers. Are they going to reward me for having this out there? What it is going to mean that I can, in the long term, I can more consistently achieve the product they require, and therefore we're a more reliant supplier. Last year, for some reason, 50% of our Hawthorn crop just didn't want to grow. Now, why? We still do not know. We question the parentage of the seed, but ultimately we're confident it wasn't that. But it didn't want to grow. Suddenly, because the BN11 stewardship specification required a 40 to 60 centimetre plant, and we had a 25 to 50, not acceptable. Even though ultimately, it would have done exactly the same job. The farmer needs that to achieve his 23 pound, whatever it is, a metre. So he needs a 40 to 60 centimetre plant. You get into other parts of the country, smaller plants. Up in Scotland, they tend to plant smaller. They plant in more upland scenarios. If you plant a big plant in a upland scenario, what it does, it dogtooths, so it spins round and eventually pops out the ground. So Scotland requires smaller plants.
So they can get a root down before they get up in height.
Yeah, and retail, most people in retail want to see something. They want what have I spent my money on?
Yeah.
So the retail, the online retailers, which is, they growing massively, and during COVID we saw massive increase of online retail demand. They want big plants because they want to see something for their money.
Yeah, people always want to be able to look out across whether they've planted a hedge or something and go, oh yeah, and a few years
sticking out the top of it. Yeah. But in fact, you probably find if they plant a smaller plant, because they're transplant shot, trees are not meant to be dug up and replanted. They're meant to be the seed land on the ground, eventually it'll germinate and it grows there. So what we are doing is not a natural process for plants.
Well, Jamie, we know you've got meetings to have with important customers, so thank you for your time and insight, and we'll let you crack on.
Not at all. Good to see you.
So it's a couple of weeks later and I'm sat in my office editing the episode, and I realised that Ray and I never actually did a wrap up to this on-site visit to Earth Rover. So it leads me to come up with something to sound us off. So firstly, thank you to both James and Jamie for talking to us on the day. It was really great to hear from James about the story of Earth Rover and what a truly made great in Britain robot is able to do for the agricultural world. As Ray, if he was here, would often call me, I am the sort of farm droid fanboy. But of course, the glaringly obvious thing about the farm droid is it's an import to these shores, and it's great to hear of Earth Rover's success as a homegrown product. Jamie was very generous with his time and not only talked us through the business of growing trees, but also his enthusiasm and what he hopes from automation and what he hopes from this directed light weeding and what that can offer his business in time. So again, thanks a lot to James and Jamie. I hope everyone at home has been listening. I would normally at this point ask Ray who he should tell to like and follow and give the podcast a listen this week. So I guess as it's only me on my own, I would say that if you're out there with a team of people planting a new hedge or a new woodland, you should certainly tell those around you that they should get your earplugs in, put Brash Ag on as you're planting your new Hawthorn hedge. So thank you all for listening. Make sure you're liked, subscribed, tell a friend, and contact us at contact@brash-ag.com. Catch you next time.
You have been listening to Raymond King and Kit Franklin. Brash Ag. Thank you, and tune in next time.